The real interesting thing about Attract is the most significant piece of information is about how authentic and congruent your organization is. So there's a lot of moving parts, as we know, to recruitment, and to have a beginning point and understanding that you have to be authentic and congruent about your organization, about your messaging, and about your brand. Now, the reason that it really has to be crystal clear about who you are, but more importantly, who you are not, then a candidate is going to understand fully, right from the start, if they fit. So if you really want to attract someone who's going to fit, then you have to build a message or build a brand that, again, is authentic and congruent. In today's environment in recruiting, you know, we look to a lot of the social media, right? So we're looking to recruit on LinkedIn or Twitter, any of these social sites, Facebook, right? We're all creating these corporate Facebook pages. And what we find is that you can get out there and have a lot of reach and start attracting, you know, this next gen through the use of these tools. And then the individual comes to your organization and says, wow, you know, I'm really excited to work here. And they get there and then they find that there's malware installed, or there's no way that they can get to the internet. Now that in and of itself is an incongruence. It's almost kind of like a bait and switch, right? Before you're going to do anything down the Attract path and understanding who you are and who you are not, you really have to understand what your organizational culture is. And that can be done in a lot of different ways. You can use a specific organizational cultural assessment. You can look at your employee engagement scores from the last couple of years. And this is going to glean a lot of information. Another thing that you can really leverage in this Attract phase is your values. So your vision, your mission, and your values. And by leveraging that, I mean not only in your messaging, but your career page. And each one of these steps, we really want you to think about, all right, Liz, if I'm going to go through all this, right, I'm going to take all these steps, I'm going to gather all this information, I'm going to ensure that we create an employee message that's authentic and congruent. Great, I got it. But now what are you going to do with it? Well, you certainly can't just put it in a file and say, we've done that. You've got to create on your site, on your career page, something that's really available. So it's almost like HR has to think like a marketer, because you've got to use that forward thinking and some of those gimmicks, you know, that marketers use to attract our attention. You've got to come up with something, a message that's you know, creates the buzz, and it's sexy. It has to be sexy today, right? Everything has to be turn your head. I've got to look at it. There's got to be a lot of moving parts. Otherwise, you know, it's yesterday's news. Attract is always the number one, because we spend so much money trying to get individuals to come to our organization that in the attraction phase, if you're not crystal clear, then you're going to bring someone in, and quite frankly, they're not going to fit, so they're not going to stay. So from an ROI point of view, I think Attract is really, really important. Who we're trying to attract in today's market is a really, really good question. I think that that's another data point, or one of those moving parts, because we have to understand that we need, you know, this diversity, diversity for sure, but balance in between the workers that we have. So we all know that we have some older workers, some boomers and beyond, that, you know, that may not be into the whole social media. Yeah, I've got a friend of mine, she's 32, she's like, I don't want to do anything about the Facebook thing, or I don't want to be a part of it. And then you see 10 and 12-year-olds, you know, using their smartphones. So I think that there is going to be a crossover. When we say who do we want to attract, it still goes back to knowledge, skills, and ability. You know, who do we need in the organization to run the machine? So from an attraction point of view, you know, we want to keep our heads up and pay attention that the skill level and comfort level with today's technology and tools is quite different than it was in the past. You know, in recruitment today, we're seeing a large trending toward using these tools. Many of them, like LinkedIn, great place to be, Twitter, Facebook, Even Yammer, you know, companies are setting up internal Yammer accounts so that their employees can talk to each other. Facebook is really interesting. You know, it started out where it was your high school buddy that was inviting you, and you know, if you wanted to stay in touch with them, you might have, but you know, here they are popping up again, and it has really morphed into a serious tool that organizations are using to not only communicate or create these affinity groups, if you will, but really spread their reach. So I hope that helps in putting together an idea of what Attract is all about and how you can build that authentic and congruent brand.